A city I love is Chicago.
Yeah.
And a person we both love, Danny Parkins on your show this week.
Yeah.
Great. You guys, and maybe it's him, and maybe it's my love of Chicago, but I've been into the Bears for a couple of years because my entire life, they literally have never had a 4,000-yard passer at quarterback. The Packers have done it like 13 or 18 times.
They've never had a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns in a season.
Not once.
And never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. You would think it would have happened by accident. I mean, they're one of the original franchises. And so they've never, I mean, honestly, you do it post Sid Luckman, they have never had good quarterback play in that city for more than a season.
And a lot of it is because Chicago is your kind of classic tough, cold, northern city. You got to wear a jacket, a heavy jacket to work in May.
Yep.
And there is something about the Steel City, the toughness. Whereas the Steelers landed a couple of great quarterbacks, there's always been a toughness about Baltimore.
They also
Pittsburgh.
landed, if I may, the Steelers landed a couple great quarterbacks, but to your point about fitting the city, were rugged, tough quarterbacks, big guys. You know, Terry Bradshaw famously to this day. People, I understand we've met Terry, but the audience probably hasn't. Your hand will be enveloped in his, like you're shocked at how giant of a man he is. Big Ben, same thing.
Yeah.
Guys who are big, tough, strong guys.
They fit Pittsburgh.
Exactly right.
So Chicago is just, it's their very being. They like tough and physical, and that's Dick Butkus.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they've just always leaned defense. They still celebrate the 85 team at halftime 3 times a year.
Yep.
So I find it fascinating as the league is now pivoted to even more offense that here's the moment for the first time ever. And I think Caleb's going to work, and I think the Bears are going to be good.
So I think the Bears are potentially going to be excellent. And I don't know if we can show the schedule or not, but my only concern for the Bears and for Caleb was, okay, so this is perfect, was before the schedule came out, what if they get off to a rough start? Because Caleb's last season at USC ended poorly. There are still some Bears folks that, and I think some people in the locker room that really like Justin.
Yeah.
If he gets off, if the first game of the season, Green Bay cracks you like they do every year, and then you have the Niners in week 2, and you're 0-2, and Caleb's looking flustered, could it snowball? Instead, it's the opposite. Of the 7 teams with the lowest projected win total in football, they play 5 of them in their first 9 games. So they have an excellent opportunity to start 6-3 or 7-2. Caleb feeling confident, momentum growing, Odunze getting better, Caleb getting better, and him being not even really a rookie anymore by the time they play all their divisional games. All their divisional games are in the final, from week 11 on. So that's why I do not think this is not my official prediction, but as I said yesterday, I'm flirting with the take. I'm considering buying the take a drink and asking how long it's in town for. I don't know why the Bears can't win the NFC. We saw Russell Wilson go to the divisional round as a rookie. We saw last year C.J. Stroud go to the divisional round as a rookie. Andrew Luck and RG3 made the playoffs as a rookie. Big Ben made the conference championship game as a rookie. This team won 7 games last year.
With bad quarterback play.
Bad quarterback play. Was a top 10 defense once they got Montez Sweat. Added Rome Odunze, added Keenan Allen, slightly upgraded the offensive line, and I think Caleb will instantly be above average and eventually be excellent.
B to B plus right out of the gate.
And there is not, unless you think the Niners are going to do something only Tom Brady has done in the last 30 years, which is lose a Super Bowl and then get back to it the next year, then who do we got? Like, there are a lot of the Packers, I like them. They were also a 9-8 team last year that looked amazing in one playoff game against a Cowboys team that fell apart. The Lions, to me, there is a little, I don't want to say regression possibility, but the Lions, what they did was kept the same team and just paid the guys more. Like, there's the Eagles over the last 2 months of football were the worst team in the NFL. I like the Rams a lot, I will admit, but you're worried about Stafford's health.
They're very young on defense.
Correct. And so my point is, it's not the AFC where you have you go 4 wide on legitimate Super Bowl contenders. It's the Niners with a question, in my opinion, at quarterback who just lost Super Bowl, and then a lot of good teams. Yeah. So could the Bears get off to a hot start? Could Caleb be feeling himself? Could Caleb, for the first time in his football life be like, oh, I don't have to score every possession for us to win a game.
Right.
So I like the Bears a lot this year.
Yeah. I want to go to the NBA. So you and I love the NBA. You go historic on it.
Sure.
But I've always had this thing, and I've been pretty darn accurate, where people associate me with quarterbacks. But what I do is usually the NBA at any one time has 10 to 12 stars, and there's one I don't like. Not that I don't like him, but Blake Griffin. I was like, take the dunks away. Yeah. What do I get? He's funny, and he can jump over a Kia. He can't hit a 12-footer. Melo, low-efficiency jump shooter, won't take 2 steps back, not going to defend, not sure he's in great shape. Derrick Rose, not sustainable. Paper thin, can't shoot, weird spin, scoring at the basket.
Westbrook famously, obviously.
And the two that I've pushed back on a little, Tatum, he disappears on my TV screen. The great ones don't. There are times he has a role player mentality in big spots. Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown would fight for the ball, and he'd watch. I know he's good. The other is Luka. First of all, when I first saw him, I thought he sustains his cardiovascular shape on Cheez-Its and peanut brittle. He looks like he doesn't work out.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure. I think when people are like he came into this season in better shape, I think it meant he just quit smoking. I think Luka's. And by the way, the Eastern European guys, I'm okay with it. I know that's not fair, but Vlade Divac, once upon a time, people didn't know. You said I went historic, so I'll do it again and I'll let you finish. People didn't know why Vlade fell in the draft, and it was because a scout went to see him play, and during a timeout, he smoked a cigarette. And people were like, I don't know if that's going to work. Now, Vlade ended up being an excellent player. So the guys who have the accent mark or whatever over the C in their name, historically, I think they're just allowed to have a different offseason regimen. Jokic is racing horses and drinking. Luka, I think, smoking hookah, and then they come in and they're great. But go ahead. I'll let you finish.
So I'm not sure. He's got a little mellow where I'm not sure he's in the greatest shape. And then there's some Harden where his ball usage is so high, by the time he gets to the second round, this guy may be out of gas. So, and this year he added defense where he was a more committed player. So the Tatum, I think I've been right. He's a very good player, but he's not top 5. No. He's not a face of the league, and I think I've been right. It's being acknowledged now. He's got a little bit of a number 2 mentality.
With a number 1 body and a massive playoff experience for his age. Yeah. And tell me if I'm wrong about Europe. You don't think there is anything inherently wrong with Tatum's game the way you thought Westbrook. It's just that his ceiling is to be the 6th or 7th best player in the league.
Yes.
That's Tatum.
Luka, I think, is difficult to play with because Luka very early in his life could score against older players, building his confidence. He's a prodigy offensively. He is a prodigy. It's like a musical prodigy. Yep. So he has been grooved Europe on. He has been grouped. He gets here, and immediately LeBron, 8 games in, is like, that is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So that's like going as an American soccer player overseas, and Ronaldo goes, I want to play with that guy.
That's right.
Okay, so he comes over, really not in shape, doesn't play defense. Why would he? Yep. He's told he's the greatest scorer. Now he's committing to defense. But my take is Jalen Brunson's emergence is like, he's going to be hard to play with.
Well, the Brunson thing is tough, and it's tough for the Mavs, and it's a little tough for Luka. It also is on the board that Jalen Brunson was not anywhere close to this level of player his time in Dallas, that he has gotten better, and to his credit, that he has worked on his game and all of that. But I do understand people are like, well, here was Brunson when he was with Luka, and now he's going to be the best player in a conference finalist. I get that.
By the way, Porzingis went to Washington?
Oh, no, I won't agree with you on Porzingis. Give me a break on Porzingis. Porzingis did it to himself in Dallas, and Porzingis also got hurt during one of those playoff runs. The Luka thing, I think you're going to end up being wrong about. This is, I think, one of the only, J-Mac and I don't agree on a ton of takes, mostly because he's always trolling the Chiefs. I think it's intentional at this point, J-Mac. I think you're doing it for engagement. You know that those Chiefs fans come after you, but your Luka take is correct. You have been saying, I don't want to misquote
3 years,
that he is either the best or will in short order be the best player in the league, correct?
Yeah.
I think J-Mac's correct on that. I don't think it's fair to right now say he's better than Jokic, and right now he isn't. But I do think it is on the board that in a month he's holding the title. Wow. I do think that the Harden comp is where the Harden comp is, to me, misguided is the usage is the same, the heliocentricity is the same, but the reason Harden is considered the way he is because in the playoffs, his numbers go down across the board, and the bigger the spot, the worse he is. Luka, from day one of his playoff career, I think the first playoff game of his life, he had 42, 9, and 7. In the first playoff series, he had a game-winning 3 to cap off a 40-point triple-double. He is the second highest point-per-game guy in NBA playoff history to Jordan, and he has been an underdog or the road team in every series of his career. And yet, here is where he finds himself on the brink of another conference finals. The criticism of Luka that I think is fair is he is so obsessed with the officiating. When he's rolling and yelling at the refs, it's like an anger that fuels him. When he's not playing well, it's less yelling and more like, woe is me, whining.
He unravels.
Yes, and he can unravel a bit. But I think he is a brilliant player, and I think the Mavs are absolutely live to be in the finals. And, oh, man, I didn't even think of it until right now. What is Colin going to do if it's a Tatum-Luka NBA Finals? Talk about – this was like when it was a couple years ago when it was going to be Steph and Jokic, one of the two I thought was going to win the championship. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm in a torture chamber here. But, yeah, I think the Mavs could be really good. And I'll give you another Mavs take real quick. I think Kyrie deserves credit for being a total professional and leader this year in a way we've never seen it.
No question.
He also, this round, has not been good. He has 2 9-point games, a 12-point game.
Yeah.
I think Kyrie, he understands his body is not built for 2 months of playoff basketball and is trying to moderate his energy and effort to try to get to the finish line.
Yeah, it's a different sport.
It's a different sport, and we saw him, he has only been on 3 long playoff runs ever, 2 with LeBron, or all 3 with LeBron. The first one, he didn't make it through, is when he broke his kneecap in 2015 or hurt his knee. And then the next 2, obviously, he was amazing in 2016, and in 2017 he was amazing. But those Cavs teams rolled through the East with such little resistance. He had a lot left in the tank come the finals. Then when he was with Brooklyn, he got hurt in the playoffs. He was bad in the playoffs in Boston twice, or in Boston, the series against Milwaukee. I think Kyrie is trying to modulate so he has a lot left over these next couple rounds, and I think the Mavs are really dangerous. I think they're really dangerous.
One of the things when you have kids, you try to give them an occasional, I don't do advice much, but I try to impart wisdom or experience or an opinion if they ask. And when the MJ documentary came on, I told my kids, I said, he was the best looking player, the most stylish, the best clutch, the best marketed, the best campaign. And it was 10 years of a lot of hell. Rodman was a mess. The owner was cheap. The GM resented him. It took him 3 coaches, I think, to get to Phil.
Yep.
And that was Michael. That was Nike behind him. David Stern behind him. A great American city. And it was cocaine cowboys early. Remember, they had all these, the traveling cocaine circus, as Michael laughed in the documentary. And I tell my kids, nothing great's ever been accomplished without pain. Never take a job that you're ready for, ever.
Okay.
You have to bail water for 6 weeks, or you took too easy of a job. So when people push back on J.J. Redick, I'm like, yeah, he's going to be over his head. That's how everything is achieved. Everything. Nothing great's been achieved. I walked in, opened the door. It's like Mahomes. I had to sit. Andy Reid barks. Alex Smith. I joined the AFC.
Sure.
Brady's here. And it's like, it's hard. Those first couple years are hard. And so my thing on J.J. Redick is, yeah, he's going to be over his skis. That's why I like it.
So here's the thing. I don't I don't necessarily dislike it in a vacuum. And there are some obvious concerns where first-time head coach is one thing. First-time coach outside of Pee Wee basketball is something entirely different. That is a legitimate concern.
Yeah, he'll be bailing.
The point I made to you that I think got misconstrued a bit on your podcast was JJ is a guy that responds to criticism online, even if it's not from, someone, a prominent or a colleague, just random people. And I think that reveals a level of immaturity is too strong. But I think that can get away from you the bigger the job you get. You
probably need to be more emotionally remote.
Yes.
The bigger the job.
The bigger the job. So that was the point I was trying to make. My real issue with the Lakers, if they hire J.J. Redick, is I think I think the Lakers have an objectively poorly run front office. I think it is a family business that is run like a family business. I think Kurt and Linda Rambis have outsized influence, and Rob Pelinka, because he was Kobe's agent, basically has a lifetime job. I think the Lakers operate a lot of moves as it might work out, and if it doesn't, can we blame it on LeBron? And if you hire the guy he does the podcast with, fair or not, and I know unequivocally LeBron was involved in one Lakers coaching hire. He vouched for Ty Lue. They lowballed Ty Lue. They didn't give him a real offer. And since then, I know this for a fact, LeBron has stayed out of the coaching hires. So he is not out there saying hire JJ. But everyone will, if JJ doesn't work out, lay it at LeBron's feet. Just like, now, did LeBron James want Russell Westbrook? Yes, definitively. Just like he wanted Kyrie Irving. They said no to that one. They said yes to Russ. Just like he wanted Anthony Davis. They said yes to that. Just like he wanted a move at the deadline like the Mavs made, which remade their team. They said no to that. They have no problem saying no to LeBron James. But any major move they make, they want to make sure if it doesn't work out, we can make it clear, well, what do you want from us? The king made us do it. And so I don't know that JJ is a good or a bad hire. I do know if it doesn't work out, it will be laid at LeBron's feet. And I think that's a lack of accountability for your own decision making.
Do you have to get to the poker tournament now?
No, you know what? I can. I do. I'll reveal something here. Fox was kind enough to fly me out here in order to talk to you. I didn't mention the poker piece of it, really. So I think I can find time for a second segment. I think I can do that.
Well, I've been very supportive of your poker.
Yes,
ventures.
You offered, back in the day, America doesn't know this. When I was playing, I played Phil Hellmuth heads up for $50,000 at a time when I didn't have $50,000 cash to just put up in a poker tournament. And you kindly, I didn't take you up on it because I didn't want to muddy the friendship waters, but you offered to, back me a bit in that. You've always been very supportive in poker. And so, I know that if I told you the tournament starts in 40 minutes, I'd leave, but it starts at noon, so I've got time.
Nick, if you've not watched him before, is very, very stylish. Yeah, I, of course, am not. So I bought shoes yesterday. I
think the shoes you're wearing are what they give elderly folks to prevent falls. I honestly think that's what you're wearing. You just showed them to me. I couldn't believe it.
I was so proud of them.
What? Why? Did you buy them, were you in line at the grocery store and they were next to the candy? It's like $8? What are you doing? You have an image to uphold.
I am so proud of my shoes.
Okay. Buddy.
Fashion Bird, we'll talk after this.
Okay.
Now, let me guess, first of all.
Yeah, it's the same brand as the jacket. That's why I said the shoes and the jacket match. It's a whole ensemble.
So this what I'm going to propose sounds a little sketchy.
Okay.
But I'm a believer that sometimes in every business, you got to make stuff work.
Okay.
Could be Illuminati, a handshake, a meeting over cigars, cognac. Yeah. Somebody says, let's just make it work.
Yeah.
Caitlyn Clark is the Tiger Woods of the sport.
Yes.
The finals got 700,000 people watching, significantly less than UFL games, which has been around about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Here comes Caitlyn Clark. The schedule is New York twice, Connecticut twice. That's like the SEC opening with Georgia and LSU's around the corner.
So if people don't follow the WNBA, the Las Vegas Aces are the best team.
Yes.
and New York Liberty is clearly second-best team, and Connecticut's right there behind them. So it is a brutal open.
Unlike what the NFL did with Harbaugh or the Bears, they stacked her, and she has struggled.
Yep.
And this is I said this earlier, I'm not sure of the answer. Move up the trade deadline. Get them better assets. I don't know what it is, but it looks like to me they didn't plan this very well with the schedule.
Well, the schedule piece of it, I agree. I don't think it is.
They knew a year ago. Well, they knew 6 months ago she was going to Indiana.
Once the draft lottery,
you could have doctored the schedule.
Well, there's just certain things you could do that are fair, but tilt the scales. In the NFL, basically we know years out who people are playing and where the games are going to be played because it's by a formula, right? The NFL does not decide who anyone is playing. It is your strength of schedule opponents. There's 3 of those. Your division, there's 6 of those. A division in your conference, there's 4 of those. A division in the other conference, there's 4 of those. And what division you get is set years ahead of time. What they can schedule is the order. And as long as everyone knows who they're playing is done fairly, then keeping in mind that this is an entertainment product.
Yes.
And keeping in mind that storylines matter, and keeping in mind, I have no problem with what they did with the Jets. Now, I think it's too optimistic, but what they did with the Jets was say, this is an old team that is more likely to deal with some type of injuries at the quarterback position or elsewhere the deeper into the season we go, but we want to get them on TV, so put it all in the first 3 months of the season.
Yeah.
I have no problem with them. With the Chiefs have 3 games in 10 days in December and an early bye. It's a little unfortunate for the Chiefs from a health perspective, but that is the cost of being the biggest draw. So the NFL understands that we are an entertainment business, and our entertainment product is football, not a football business that entertainment is a side piece of. And so, yeah, I do think that would it have been ideal for Caitlyn to have in her first game one of the worst teams in the WNBA
at home,
right?
Yeah. 2 or 3 home games, dregs of the WNBA.
Do I think that would have been smarter? Yes. Do I think she's going to end up being fine? I do. But there is a little bit of not a ton, but a little bit of the sizzle removed.
Yes.
Because 10 turnovers in her first game, and then her game last night, she struggled somewhat.
Yeah. So am I supposed to think less of the Nuggets for being blown out and taken to 7? Or I can simply validate my opinion on the West is it's the adult table. Home court means almost nothing for Dallas, OKC, Denver, Minnesota, nor did it mean anything for the Warriors, who won 3 of their 4 championships on the road, 3 of 6 Jordans on the road. Great teams. Knicks, Pacers need home.
Yep.
They're not great teams. I would argue Boston is closer to great than average because they can actually go on the road and win big games.
And they're weird because they lose a ton of home games. They're like 500 at home in the playoffs last 3 years.
What am I to make of Denver 7 games with Minnesota?
Well, listen, no one should feel badly except for, of course, and this is one of the reasons I want to make sure I was on TV today, Kevin Wildes, who has been banging the table. No one's in the same stratosphere as the Denver Nuggets for 4 months because calls for gentlemen sweeps, mocks me and Brew, and now Wildes. And you're not on TV today, buddy, so now you really can't defend yourself. There's nothing you can do about it. Sorry. Should have come to L.A. as well. Now all of a sudden there's a Game 7. Denver's whole championship hopes on the line here. Yeah. And I know that we fast forward dynasties because we want them. A couple years ago, there was a team in the NBA who had an international player, who had a couple MVPs under his belt, who won the championship in dominating fashion, who the next year looked like they're going to win the championship again, and then lost a surprising Game 6, and then lost Game 7. Giannis and Bucks, and they have not been out of round 1 since.
Yes.
And so now, do I think Denver is a rightful favorite in Game 7? I do. But do I think that Jamal Murray, if we're being honest, Jamal Murray has been for years in the postseason playing over his skis more than a bit.
But we know he's better than Josh Hart, who's doing the same. He's a better player.
No question about it. But Jamal Murray was due for a regression a bit, even if he's still a great playoff player. And the regression's hitting him hard.
Yeah.
This postseason, it's weird because he has the 2 game winners, which were unbelievable plays, but his numbers over the course of the postseason are not only by his standards bad from a true shooting percentage, it's one of the worst high-volume 10-game postseason stretches in the last 20 years. If the Nuggets don't get an A-level game from Jamal Murray in Game 7, the Timberwolves will win. Like, I know what I'm getting from Jokic, and Jokic played perfect offensive basketball in Games 4 and 5, and that matters. It matters that he held them off. It matters that he kept the team alive, and that might be the reason they win the championship. But Anthony Edwards is not going to be afraid of the moment, and Game 7s are weird. The Game 7 against Giannis, if you remember it, Grant Williams hit 7 threes, and it's like, well, we lose. Like, you know, is Naz Reid going to catch fire, and all of a sudden Denver is up against it? And I know what I'm going to get from Jokic. I know he's going to be great. If Jamal Murray's not great, and he's had a really rough postseason, the Timberwolves are going to win.
Remember that Lakers-Celtic goes 7. Kobe and Paul Pierce can't get looks. Meta wins the game.
Kobe 6 of 24 in that game 7.
Awful.
Meta World Peace hits the no, yes 3. They win the championship.
This was great.
It was great to see you.
Now, I don't play poker. When you play poker, it always looks, the crowd is, I'll say this. When I watch poker, there is something about, there's an image to it. You all look a little bit like outlaws. There is a sense that you're living on the fringes of society.
Yeah, it's the way it's supposed to be. The late, great Doyle Brunson, my friend, of course, dealt with, was he illegal, and he's the greatest poker player of all time, kind of took it into the mainstream. There is a new, brand of poker player, the young solver type, do a lot of studying, they're wearing backpacks, they're very buttoned down. And then there's the group of guys that you're like, I think your entire net worth is in your right front pocket right now. And I like it. I like it. Those are the rooms I want to be able to be in a room with you like this, and then be in that room and feel comfortable in all those worlds. So yeah, if anyone's going to be out at the Commerce Casino, I'll see you there in a few hours. It'll be great.
Lovely family.
See you, Colin.
See you, buddy. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.